Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you a requested video of how to cut an inbuilt corset with a Vertex boning channel. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So first, I'll start by marking out my basic measurement, which is my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waist, and shoulder to top length. So for my shoulder to top length, I added 5 inches after my waistline. So I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2 and add half. From that point, I'll go down by 1 inch and I will be drawing my shoulder slope on this point. Next is to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. I'll make a mark there and go ahead to place my ruler and draw a straight line. After that, I'm going to also place my ruler the other way and I'm going to draw out a straight line here. So now I'll divide what I have here into 2 by folding my tape up and I will mark. From there, I'll come out by ½ inch, and on the chest line, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. After marking that, I'll go ahead to place my curve drew, connect from that bust circumference to the ½ inch and to the upper part of my shoulder. The next step I'm going to take here is to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. I'll mark this all the way to the lower part of my pattern paper. And after that, I'll place my ruler and draw out a straight line. After I'm done connecting this, I'm going to be marking my dart intake of 1 inch for both sides. So if you're plus size or your bust is a bit bigger, you'll be using 1.5 inches and you'll be marking it on both sides. That's 1 inch here and 1 inch on the other side, or 1.5 inches here and also mark it at the other side. After you're done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to connect and then place my curve drew, connect from my bust down to my under bust at both points, then use my marker to reconnect. So after I'm done outlining this, I'll go up and place my tape, mark 1.5 inches because the cup started a bit low. I'll draw out a line there, and after that I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 again, connect the lines. So I'll be marking a dart intake of 1 inch at both sides of the line, and I'll connect from my bust to that 1 inch on each side of my pattern and I'll connect. After that, I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline this. Next, I'll go ahead and insert my body measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace and add ½ inch or 1 for this pattern. You do not need much allowance because it's an inbuilt corset. Here you mark the under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add ½ inch. So for this pattern, I'm just taking out 2 inches from my waistline. My waistline is 28 minus 2, I have 26. 26 divided by 4, I have 6.5. I'll mark, measure the dart intake, replace and add ½ inch or 1 for my sewing allowance. So I'll go over to the lower part, mark my hip circumference here, measure the dart intake, replace it and add my sewing allowance. So the top length from my waistline, I added 5 inches to get the top length. And the reason why I did not use a dart to snatch out my waistline for this pattern is because the Vertex boning that we have is closer to the bust and center of the dress, so you don't want to add a boning by the side of the dress also. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to connect. Coming to this side of my pattern, I will be coming down by ½ inch from my chest line, and from here, instead of going in by 0.5, I'll go in by 0.75 because the wideness we have at the center is a bit wider than ½ inch, and I'll take it all the way up. So after that, I'll place my curve drew and I'll be connecting this to that 0.75 we have, and from here I will connect my cup this way. So this is what we have, and here will be straight. Then going over to this side, I'll come up by ½ inch and I will reconnect my cup. And after this, I'll mark 1.5 inches here. Go ahead and mark that same 1.5 inches here, and I'll be reconnecting to this part. And remember, when you're cutting out this pattern, you're going to be adding ½ inch on the sleeve part at both sides for turn up on that part. So here I'll mark 0.3 inches. This is to get rid of any excess I will have on the sleeve or yoke part of this dress. And I'll just go ahead and reconnect my cup. Here I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 3.5, and add ½ inch, making it 4 inches, and I'll reconnect and draw my cup. So this is what I have for this. So next I'll come up by 2 inches from the lower part and I will reconnect this. So after reconnecting this, I'm just going to go ahead to mark it out. So this pattern is actually an inbuilt corset, but if you don't want to make it an inbuilt corset, you can just stop at the waistline of your pattern. I'll mark my bust dart. So to get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in the front and your shoulder to waist at the back. So mine is 1.5. My shoulder to waist at the front is 17. My shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. So I'll just go ahead and mark and connect. The reason why there's much difference is that there's a bust in the front and there's no bust at the back of your dress. So just like I said, we have already snatched our waistline because we are using a Vertex boning and the boning did not touch the side, so you can't go ahead and add any boning by the side of this dress. So I'll be giving a brief explanation on how to achieve the Vertex boning on the dress. So I'll be using this paper as the fabric and I'll place my boning inside. So we'll assume that this pattern paper is the fabric and you're going to cover your boning with the fabric. You're going to cover at least the amount that you're going to use to create your Vertex boning. After you're done wrapping your boning with the fabric, that is encasing the boning inside the fabric, you're going to start by sewing the sides of the Vertex boning. So you're going to start by creating the Vertex boning. You place your boning slanted at the side this way, and after that you're going to place another boning starting from the upper part of your cup to the lower part and the part at the center. That is to cover the place that has joining at the center where the two sides will meet. Then you move over to creating the one by the side, and which will be extending to the sewing allowance. Then the last boning is this one that is slightly under your bust. You'll be using it to cover the joining that you have on the two sides of this boning. So after that, I'll just go ahead and cut out my pattern and also blend in my darts. So just like I said, if you don't want to make this an inbuilt corset, you can just cut this out starting from the waistline. But the original dress is actually an inbuilt corset. After I'm done cutting out, this is what I have, and next we'll be moving over to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements. So for the back waistline, I have 15.5 because we took out a bust dart of 1.5 inches. And after that, I added 5 inches starting from the waistline. The next thing I'll do is to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. And after marking that, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I will draw a straight line all the way starting from the upper part to the lower part of my dress, and I'll mark ½ inch at both sides. Now I'm going to extend this all the way up at the upper part of my pattern. That is after I'm done marking the ½ inch at both sides, and I'll extend this to the lower part also. So after I'm done doing this, I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker to outline this to make it more visible for you to see. And the next step is to insert my body measurement. Mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, replace the dart intake and add ½ inch for sewing allowance. Mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and also add ½ inch for sewing allowance. And I'll just go ahead to connect my marks and come up by 2 inches just like we did for the front pattern and go ahead to connect. So if you don't want to make yours an inbuilt corset, you can just go ahead and cut it out from the waistline just like we said earlier. And after this, at the upper part, I'll be marking 1.5 inches just like we did. Place here, starting from this line, I'll mark 1.5 inches and connect. Now I'll come up by 0.5 here to take out any excess that I will have here that will make it not to relax. Come down by ½ inch here and I will connect to avoid the back popping up when I'm putting on this dress. After that, I'll go in by 2 inches here and I'll be marking the lacing bar area. This is if you're using a lacing bar. If you're not using a lacing bar, go ahead and add your 2 inches or 1.5 inches for sewing allowance in front. Now I'll connect and mark. Make a dot to indicate that I have a lacing bar area at that point. And after I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead and cut out the rest of my pattern. So if you have any question regarding this tutorial, please don't forget to leave your question at the comment section. So after I'm done cutting this, we'll move over to the skirt pattern of this dress. For the skirt pattern, I'll just go ahead and I'll mark 7 inches from my waistline, which will serve as my hip point, and I'll rule a straight line at that point. Then at the upper part of my pattern, I'll go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. Here, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. My hip circumference is 40 divided by 4, I have 10. So let's say I added a sewing allowance of 1 inch because this is a pattern illustration. But for yours, use up to 2 inches. So at the hip point, I have a total of 11. So next, I'll mark my waist to knee point and I'll draw out a line there. So whatever measurement I have at the hip point, which is 11, I'll take out 2 inches from it. This is to give me a fitted effect on my skirt. I'll take it to the lower part of my skirt. So we are taking this as the full length of the skirt, and I'll just go up by 2 inches there. This 2 inches we are going up is to give this skirt a fitted effect from above our knee. So after that, that same measurement I used at the knee point is what I will use there. Now I'll place my curve drew and I'll connect this to the hip point, and from the hip point I will take this all the way to the lower part of my skirt, that is that 2 inches, and take it all the way down. Now I'll just go ahead and cut out the rest of my skirt pattern. So after cutting this, you're going to use this skirt to cut out your back pattern. And to cut your skirt pattern, you'll be adding about 1.5 or 2 inches for your zipper allowance. So if you're using a pattern to cut your skirt, all you have to do is add your zipper allowance first before cutting out. But if you're not using a zipper, you're not using a pattern paper, after cutting your fabric, you're going to place it and leave about 2 inches or 1.5 in front. So after I'm done cutting this, I'm done marking this, I'll go down by ½ inch on the waistline and also come in by half. This is to make sure that the skirt is relaxed at the back. So this ½ inch you took out at the zipper, please do well to replace it at the other side of your skirt. So I'll just cut this out. This is only done for the back pattern, and this is it for the skirt. And the next thing will be cutting out the sleeve. So if you notice, the sleeves is in 2 parts. We have the shorter one and then the longer sleeve, but it is fixed together. So first, I'll just go ahead and draw out a starting line. So I'll go ahead and I will mark my shoulder to elbow and my total sleeve length. And after that, I will rule out a line at my shoulder to elbow point, and then the lower part will be my sleeve length. And I'll also make a mark at that point. Next is to mark your sleeve cap height, and to do that is to divide your bust measurement by 12 plus 0.5 inches. Mine is 3.25, but I like using 3.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead and label my pattern, and after that I'll be marking my armhole circumference divided by 2. My armhole circumference is 16 inches divided by 2, I have 8 inches. So from that 8 inches line, I'll place my ruler and I will reconnect all the way to the upper part. So I'll divide what I have there into 2 by folding my tape and I'll mark. So now I'll go back and divide the first part by 2 and mark, and I'll come up by ½ inch. At this side, I'll go ahead and place and divide by 2 and come down by ½ inch at that point. Now I'm going to connect all these dots together. This is just how to mark or cut out a basic sleeve pattern. And I'll just also go ahead to connect this to that 8 inches that I have here. After that, I'll go ahead and use my marker to outline the rest of the pattern. So at the elbow, I'll mark my elbow circumference divided by 2 and add ½ inch. Here, I'll mark my wrist measurement divided by 2 and add ½ inch. So you notice on the sleeve that there's an opening. So when you're sewing yours, you can just go ahead and stop stitching the sleeve by the side with about 5 inches or 4 inches there. So I'll go ahead and cut out my sleeve. While cutting out, make sure you add like ½ inch for joining allowance at the upper part. So we are also going to cut out an inner sleeve for this. So here's my pattern paper, and I will go ahead to cut out all the basic measurement just like we did initially. But first, I'll just go ahead and mark out ½ inch. Then after that, I'll determine the length of the sleeve. So you can use 6 to 8 inches for this sleeve. And at that point, I'll just go ahead and draw out a straight line. And after drawing out that line, I'll just mark out my sleeve cap height and the rest of my pattern. So after I'm done marking my sleeve cap height, just like we did initially for the first sleeve, now where my sleeve stops, I'll measure around there, and after measuring around there, I'll place the measurement and add about 1 inch to it, because this one you're going to turn it with lining, and I'll add ½ inch on top. You can also go ahead and add 1.5 inches for the sewing allowance. So I'll just go ahead and cut this. So for this particular sleeve, we are going to be using a slash and spread method because at the upper part we have like a ruffle on that part or little pleats on the upper part of the sleeve, and this sleeve will be underneath the first sleeve, which is a transparent lace sleeve. So I'll just go ahead and mark these lines out, and after that I'll cut through it. And after I'm done slashing it, you place it on your fabric and spread it, then cut out for your sleeve. So now for this illusion wrapper, to drape this illusion wrapper on this pattern paper might be difficult, but you can check this out on YouTube at Pieces Clothing Hub. You can just check how to drape trending wrapper. She has a tutorial on that, how to drape this particular wrapper illusion. So I can't really do it here because this is a pattern illustration and I don't have a mannequin within reach. So you can just go ahead to check this out. So if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. See you in our next video. Thanks.